Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be going over 3 caster DPS classes available on an Everquest pop block server named Agnarr. All 3 classes are really fun to play with unique abilities and playstyles. I'm going to focus on 3 facets of each class by looking at damage output, defense and utility, and then add a few tips and tricks at the end. I hope you enjoy. Wizards are the king of converting mana into raw carnage. They get access to the highest base damage nukes in the game with Shock of Magic, which does up to 3000 damage base, and Strike of Solasek, which does 2740 damage base. They also get a cold base version called Ice Meteor that does 2460 damage base. This allows them to cast the highest damage magic, fire, and ice spells on the server. Couple this with the fact that wizards get the highest spell critical hit chance, and you will see nukes that hit for well over 10,000 hit points. They also get access to a fire rain with Tears of Ro, and a cold based rain with Tears of Mar that do 1100 damage in waves, hitting up to 3 times, or hitting an extra time for a maximum of 4 if there's more than one target, for 492 mana. This is some of the most mana efficient ways to do damage on Agnarr. They also get direct damage lures, which do around 1000 damage and are not particularly impressive. However, these lures get a negative 300 resist check, making them basically unresistible. This allows wizards to do damage even when the mob has high resists. They also get draughts, which allows very fast cast nukes for times when you don't have time to wait for the longer cast times. These draughts have a 1.7 second cast time after spell haste and warn spell haste. Wizards also get several mob-specific nukes in Porlos' Fury and Sagar's Wrath that do 2000 base damage and consume 2 Paradots when you cast them. That might sound expensive, but these spells are flagged unresistible, which allows them to land every time. Wizards also get Flaming Sword of Zuzzle, which is a fast cast pet that fights till the creature dies and adds a little bit extra damage. You can also get an item that casts this from Vex Thal, which is a Luklin era raid zone. They also get Ice Flame of EC, which increases a wizard's cold damage by 1 to 30%, but only for level 60 spells. This is important because this buff stacks with all Worn Focus buffs, so with the max Lost Dungeons of Norath 40% augment, you can get up to 70% increase on your level 60 ice spells, making them deal much more damage. The best example of this is Ancient Destruction of Ice spell that drops in Vex Thal. It does 1150 damage base, but with 70% possible bump, it can hit for almost 2000 damage base for 200 mana base. Wizards are also the masters of area effect damage. They get Winds of Gelid, which does 1260 base damage up to 30 creatures. This spell has a 12-second cooldown, however, so it cannot be spammed. Because of this, they also get 2 other point-blank AoE spells that hit 30 creatures in Jill's Wave of Heat and Jill's Zephyr of Ice. Both of these spells are fast casts with a 6-second cooldown, effectively allowing you to spam point-blank AoEs for massive amounts of damage. For times when you only need to hit 4 targets, their 2 rains mentioned earlier can be used. Lastly, wizards get the Mana Burn AA, which is probably the most iconic skill for them in this era. It can consume up to 6,000 mana to deal 24,000 direct damage instantly. Wizards are a cloth-wearing class, so they don't get great defense, however they do get a few tools to help them survive. First, they get a 750 hit point rune that also doubles as a mana regen and Force Shield. They get a clicky for this from Plane of Time as well. They also get several different evacuation type spells in AA that vary in cast time but can get you or your party out of sticky situations very quickly. For instance, Exodus allows you to instantly evac your group once every 1 hour and 12 minutes. Wizards also get AA that reduce cast time on their evacuation spells by 50%, making them much faster casting. Defensively, a wizard's worst enemy is pulling aggro and getting killed by a boss. One method they have for combating this is their concussion line, which reduces your threat by 400 per cast. The elemental legs have this clicky effect on a 2-second cast. You can also farm the ancient version from Vex Thal, which reduces threat by 600 but costs more mana. Wizards get the Harvest spell as well as the AA that help bolster their mana pool. The Harvest spell has a 10-minute cooldown and restores around 500 mana. The AA Harvest of Druzzle has an 8-minute cooldown and restores about 500 mana as well. Wizards can also get access to some powerful snares and roots. Atul's Spectral Shackles is unique in that it's targeted AoE with a long range, but it also hits up to 30 targets with a 2-minute, 30-second base snare. You can also get a clicky item from Shreza Temple with this effect. They also get the AA Strong Root, which has a negative 300 resist check and roots a mob for 48 seconds, usable every 1 hour and 12 minutes. Wizards can also single target stun using Draught of Thunder for a 1-second stun, or Telekin for an 8-second stun. They both work on creatures up to level 65. Wizards also get the familiar summon line that gives many different benefits such as increased casting level, increased critical damage, increased mana regen and resist, and increased maximum mana. They have the spell version and the AA version, with the AA version providing much better benefits. Probably what wizards are known for the most is their suite of teleports to all over Norath. They get 3 different teleport lines with self gates, then there's a group-based portals, and finally they have single target castable translocates to send someone somewhere without having to go yourself. Wizards have a slew of cool places and locations they can teleport to, including being the only class that can teleport themselves to Plane of Hate or Plane of Sky without having to use the Plane of Tranquility in PC. Wizards can also send characters to their bind points with the single target, group, and point-blank AoE translocate spells. Always ensure you have your familiar up and that you're fully buffed because wizards rely heavily on max mana and mana regen. Spell haste is also very good for a wizard. Make sure you use your Zizzle pets where possible, especially if you have the mana free clicky. Threat watching is very important on a wizard because you don't know if your next spell is going to do 2500 damage or 12,000 damage. Concussion is critical to making sure you keep your threat to a manageable level. Mana burn is super fun, but you will almost always pull aggro when using it. Try to time it in such a way where it doesn't leave you unable to DPS, like towards the end of a fight where a rest period is imminent. You can also let the group or raid know you're going to use it and have the tank watch for it so they can taunt off you immediately. Make sure you use your 2 harvest abilities off cooldown to keep your mana pool topped up. For AoE situations, if it's 4 mobs or less, use your Reigns. If it's 5 mobs or more, use your point blank AoEs. Mages have a few ways they can do damage, but are somewhat limited in the school of magic they can cast. For instance, their main 2 direct damage nukes are Firebolt of Talon, which does 2100 damage base with a 300 range, costing 515 mana, and Sun Vortex, which does 1600 damage, has a 200 range and costs 395 mana. They also get Burning Sands, which is a very fast cast, spammable direct damage spell, doing 980 damage base for 270 mana. All 3 of these are fire based. In the event you can't use fire spells or it's getting resisted too much, they also get Black Steel, which is a magic based 1475 damage nuke for 345 mana and a 200 range. Mages also get a few targeted AE range spells such as Maelstrom of Thunder, which does 900 damage per wave, and Sunstorm, which does 800 damage per wave. Both of these get 3 waves unless there are 2 or more mobs, in which it will dissipate after hitting 4 creatures. Both have a 12-second cooldown. If you look at damage per mana, Firebolt of Talon is about 4.07 damage per mana spent, whereas Maelstrom of Thunder is 5.62 damage per mana, and Sunstorm is 5.45 damage per mana. If there are 2 mobs, your targeted AE spells are even more efficient and should be prioritized for both single target and multiple target situations depending on the length of the fight. Mages also get 2 point-blank AoEs with Wind of the Desert, which can hit up to 30 targets for 1050 base, costing 780 mana with a 12-second cooldown, as well as Scintillation, which does 608 damage base, costs 361 mana, and has a 6.5-second cooldown. Perhaps the most interesting thing about mages is the 4 pets they get access to. The Fire Pet, Child of Ro, will cast a damage shield on itself for 71 damage, as well as nuke the target for 880 damage. It's a caster type and the weakest defensively. The Earth Pet, Wraith's Son, will cast 74 damage root periodically on the creature it's fighting. It's also a tank type, having the most hit points of the pets. The Air Pet, Ward of Zegening, will proc a 90 damage stun and is a monk type. This pet is great for interrupting casters. The Water Pet, Servant of Mar, will proc a 454 damage nuke and can backstab. The Water Pet is a rogue type. All these pets can be made stronger with pet focus gear or augments on this server, which are attained by various ways. Things that are improved are your pet's max damage, its hit points, its spell potency. It also increases its level from starting at level 60 to a maximum of level 64 on this server. They also get the Burnout spell that increases attack speed, armor class, and strength. Mages can also cast a 48-point damage shield with Flame Shield of Ro, and the group version Maelstrom of Ro. They also get the AA Servant of Ro, usable every 9 minutes, that summons a creature to cast Servant of Ro Bolt, dealing 2100 damage every 3 seconds for 45 seconds. They also get another AA cooldown with Host of the Elements, which is usable every 15 minutes and summons 3 level 65 elementals to attack for 30 seconds. Mages also get Companion's Fury, which allows you to cast Frenzied Burnout every 15 minutes, lasts for 36 seconds, and turns your pet into a monster, with 15% overhaste, 20 strength, 200 attack power, a 5% chance to flurry and double attack, accuracy increase of 10%, base melee damage increase of 110%, and a 10% chance to rampage that deals 50% of normal damage. They also get 12 ranks of elemental form, which at end state gives you 30 to all stats, 25 to all resists, 30 points of damage shield, 4 mana regen, 200 max HP, and plus 5 to your casting level. This is a huge boon for mages. They also get 4 ranks of turn summon, usable every 5 minutes, which is a summon creature only nuke that hits for 2000 and has a 5% chance to trigger a 32,000 damage nuke. They also get spammable summoned only nukes with the Destroy Summon line. The mages can also charm level 60 summon creatures with the Call of the Archmage spell, which is useful in some plane zones like Bastion of Thunder for doing a lot of damage. Mages have pretty poor defense generally as a cloth class, but they get access to the Dunedain Shielding Ring from Plane of Sky with 1 charge of instant harm shield that's rechargeable if you're looking to increase your survivability. Mages can summon all kinds of stuff, including pet gear. They can summon 2 weapons, a belt, and a mask as part of a basic kit for any pet on the server to do a lot more damage and get more hit points and haste. They can also summon jewelry with the Summon Jewelry Bag spell that provides focus effects on the items so you can fill slots before you get gear or hook your friends up. They can also summon leather, chain, and plate armor sets to give to players or other pets for increases to armor class. Mages can also summon water stones and rings of flight, which provide a clicky enduring breath and clicky levitation item respectively that's tradable to other players. They can also summon Bristlebane's Bundle, which is a fun spell that summons ale, cake, a spinning bottle, and fireworks. Mages also get the spell Monster Summoning 3, which will take a nearby mob and summon a pet that looks like it, such as a hill giant. This spell is fun, however the pet is much weaker than your other pets. Mages can also summon Modulating Rods via Rod of Mystical Transvergence, which is a single target, and mages get a clicky version of this on the Elemental Pants, and then the Mass Mystical Transvergence, which summons a point blank rod for everyone near you. This rod has 3 charges on a 5-minute cooldown and transfers 450 of your hit points into 360 mana. Mages can make their pets fear immune with the Valiant Companion spell, as well as make it run much faster with the Velocity spell. They get the ability to heal their pets as well using Planar Renewal, which is not as strong as the Beast Lord heal, but still heals for around 1200 base and cures the pet of 24 counters for poison and disease and curses. They also get Min Companion, which heals the pet for 3300 once every 36 minutes. Mages are also one of 2 classes that get Malicenia, which is a magic, fire, and cold, as well as poison resist debuff, and stacks with the Enchanter's Howl of Tashin magic debuff line. Mages get Call of the Hero, otherwise known as Koth, which allows the mage to consume a pearl and summon one of their group mates to them anywhere in the zone. Some zones don't allow for Kothing, but most of them do, and it makes it much easier to position group mates or summon them past mobs or obstacles. They can also mesmerize summon creatures up to level 60 with Elemental Silence. Mages get several buffs that help them as well, such as Zegani's Phantasmal Guard, which gives 8 hit points and mana per tick, and also gives AC, as well as and Shield of Malin, which provides hit points, AC, and magic resist, both of which stack with your elemental form buff. Mages also get some of the standard utility kit with Invisibility, Bind Affinity, Gate, and Annual Magic. As a mage, you'll want to make sure you're watching your tells for mod rod requests. You can even use a macro for this, leveraging the /r target command to target the person who sent you a tell and quickly give them a mod rod. These can drastically increase the mana return of your group or raid. If you left click on the name in your tell window, you can select target and click your pants to give that person a mod rod as well. The threat meter is going to be your friend. With Mitigation of the Mighty, all threat generated by your pet is sent to you, and mages don't have a way to throttle threat generation, meaning you need to carefully ensure you don't rip aggro off things. The water pet is generally accepted as the highest damage pet in most instances because it gets a high damage proc, as well as the ability to backstab. Buffs are important, so make sure you have as much mana regen as possible and have mod rod charges. You can adjust the procs on your pet based on the weapon you give them. Fist of Ixablat has a fire proc, Blade of the Kedge has a cold proc, and Blade of Wallen has a magic proc. Mages also get the benefit of a full set of Phantom Plate already equipped on their summon pets. You can check what equipment your pet has summoned with the /pet inventory check command. This will also allow you to see if the equipment you've given to your pet is equipped. Necromancer is one of the most fun and self-reliant classes on the server. They get access to a suite of damage over time spells across virtually all schools of magic, not cold, and even get multiples of each. These damage over time spells are their bread and butter, and almost all of them have big resist checks, making them easier to land. They get magic-based Horror and Imprecation, poison-based Blood of Thule and Envenom Bolt, fire-based Funeral Pyre of Kelador and Pyrocruer, disease-based Dark Plague and Plague, as well as Cessation of Core, and they also get a magic-based Splurt, which does around 1400 damage at conclusion, but starts doing low damage and increases its damage over its duration. Necros also get a suite of heal over time, damage over time spells known as Hot Dots, such as Saren's Kiss, which does 200 damage per tick and 200 healing per tick with a negative 200 magic resist check. They also get damage over time spell called Zephyr's Theft of Vitae, which puts a 1-minute dot on your target and heals your whole group for 80 hit points per tick. Necros also get access to 4 different damage over time clickies with their Elemental Pants casting Pyrocruer, the Demi-Leech Skullcap casting Morturnum, the Osine of Limitless Time casting Embracing Darkness, and the Zephyr's Shroud of Despair casting Splurt. This allows the Necro to do a decent amount of damage without using mana. They also get a poison-based direct damage spell in Neurotoxin that does 1325 base damage with no resist modifier, as well as Touch of Majaki, which does 875 base damage, but also heals you for the amount done, as well as having a negative 200 resist check, essentially making it unresistible and costing roughly the same amount of mana. For creatures that are magic immune, they also get Gangrenous Touch of Zumul, which is disease-based life tap doing 720 damage base with a negative 150 point disease check modifier. They also get the Destroy Undead line, which does about 1200 damage and is very mana efficient, but undead only. With the Fury of Magic and Destructive Fury AAs, it's a possible to critical hit for 3 times the damage done with your life taps, and with the Theft of Life AA, it's possible for that critical strike to heal critical again, healing you for around 6,000 health. Necromancers get 2 pets with Child of Protoxylus, which is the warrior, and Saren's Companion, which is a rogue. The warrior pet has much more hit points, whereas the rogue can backstab and does more damage. These pets can be hasted using Rune of Death, which increases the pet's HP, AC, and attack speed. These pets can be healed using the Men Companion AA, which heals for 3,300, or using Touch of Death, which heals for 1,200, and removes 24 points of poison, disease, and curses. They also get the AA Wake the Dead, which is usable every 9 minutes, and summons a level 51 minion from a corpse that will attack for 90 seconds. Necros can also charm undead creatures up to level 60 with Word of Terrace for 20 minutes and 30 seconds. This is very popular in zones where you can find level 60 undead mobs. Necros also get the AA Life Burn, which consumes 75% of your current life and deals 100% of that as direct damage, and then 250 damage a tick for 6 ticks. It also gives you a Life Burn Recourse, which does 250 point heal over time for the same duration. This means if you have 10,000 health, this skill will hit for 7,500 damage and another 1,500 damage after, for a total of 9,000 damage, usable every 2 hours and 24 minutes. Necros get several ways to get out of tough situations, such as having access to 2 Divine Aura abilities in Harm Shield and Quivering Veil of Zarn, which both have an 18-second duration with a 10-minute cooldown. They also get the Feign Death spell, which is later replaced by Death Piece, which gives the Necro a 98% to do a successful Feign Death. Only Necros, Shadow Knights, and Monks get the ability to Feign Death natively on this server. Necros have several hot dots available to them, and they all stack. This means you can cast many of them at once, such as Saren's Kiss at 200 hit points, Vexing Mordenya at 122 hit points, Morturnum at 122 hit points, and Bond of Death at 80 hit points, to get a total of 524 hit points per tick, as well as 524 damage per tick. You can also add to this that your life taps are fast cast and have a negative 200 resist check, allowing the Necro to tap tank or stand toe to toe and take damage repeatedly spamming Touch of Mujaki. These 2 methods make Necros very survivable. Necros also get many ways to replace mana, starting with getting the highest mana regen spell in the game with Seduction of Saren. This ability gives you 50 mana per tick, but takes away 42 hit points per tick, and changes you into a modeled skeleton, which you can click off if you don't like. This is the reason why people playing Necro will usually choose Ixar, because their innate regeneration at cap will overtake the Lich form and you won't have to worry about your life constantly draining. They also get Mind Rack, which costs 600 mana, decreases your target's mana by 300, and gives your whole group a 75 mana per tick buff that lasts for 4 seconds, or effectively restores 300 mana. This is usable every 60 seconds, but does require a creature that has mana to be able to cast it on. Necros also get the Subversion line of spells, which can be chain cast to quickly give your mana to other players. Sedulous Subversion costs 400 mana and increases your target's mana by 150. Covetous Subversion costs 300 mana and increases your target's mana by 100. These both have an 8-second recast, meaning if you memorize both of them, you can essentially get a near 100% uptime on twitching, which is generally what this capability is called. They can also fast cast Force Shield, or cast Force Shield, which is a 750 hit point shield that also provides 2 mana per tick. Dead Man Floating is a buff Necros can cast that gives Enduring Breath, Levitation, Poison Resist, and lasts over an hour. They also get a group version of this with Dead Men Floating. Necros are also one of 3 classes that get access to a Resurrect spell, however it costs an Essence Emerald, which is only attainable by casting Sacrifice on a level 46 or higher character to kill them and permanently make them lose experience. Many players will sacrifice old characters or characters that are experience capped to make them and sell them on the bazaar. They can also AA summon corpses, which makes Necros very good at corpse recovery, but this does require coffins. Necros get the spell Shackle of Spirit, which is 70% slow, but is undead only, which makes them an effective slower in some instances. They also get Levant, which is a self-only evacuation spell, sending you to a safe spot in the zone. They get Snares with the Embracing Darkness line that also doubles as a damage over time ability, as well as a few roots with Greater Immobilize that has a negative 30 magic resist check, 1.75 second cast, and lasts over a minute, as well as Petrifying Earth with a negative 30 magic resist check, a 2.5 second cast time, and lasts over 3 minutes. They can also fear creatures up to level 60 using Unholy Bellow. They also get a spell called Infusion that can restore 1000 mana on a 10-minute cooldown, but consumes an Essence Emerald to cast, so generally not used. Necros also get a 20% reduction in aggro generated with casting Subtlety AA. Necros also get the Scent of Terrace line that debuffs a creature's fire, poison, and disease, and stacks with most other resist buffs. Necros also get a lot of the standard utility like Bind Affinity, Gate, Annual Magic, an instant cast AA Invis to Undead, and with the pre-nerf Circlet of Shadow, an instant cast regular invisibility too. These are much harder to get, but they still pop up for sale from time to time. Necros have a lot of dots to manage. If it's hard for you to keep track, you can macro many of them together in various ways to make it easier. Make sure you always have Seduction of Saren on for the massive mana bump. If you get into trouble with aggro, just feign death periodically to set yourself to the bottom of the hate list. Try to get pet focus items as soon as you can to increase the level and hit points of your pets. Your pet is like an always-on damage over time ability, so try to keep it alive when possible for the free damage it does. If you have spare mana, you can choose to help another character low on mana by twitching them to extend their capability. This is made easier by using macro with your 2 subversions in it and spamming it. Necros are also the only class that gets both an aggro break with Feign Death and a resurrection spell with Convergence, making them ideal to help a group or raid recover in bad situations. Zephyr's Theft of Vitae is mana intensive, but you can keep 80 hit points per tick going on your entire group as long as it's up, which is really awesome passive healing. The Demi-Leech Skullcap is pretty iconic for Necros and is not a particularly difficult quest, just time consuming, but gives you a clicky damage over time spell that is also a hot dot. When charming, you can carry around a negative magic resist kit with 4 items in the Rusty Spike shoulder pads, the Adamantite band, and the Gauntlets of Mortality, and then I personally also add a Tulip Mudge robe for 36% Worn Haste. You can get the kit back by killing your pet and looting it. When charming, you can also do things like use your Shackle of Spirit to slow the mob you want to charm, use Orb of Tishan to proc a magic resist debuff on that mob, and then use a Newell Magic to remove the slow, and finally charm the creature as a way to reduce its magic resistance and keep it charmed longer. After a Feign Death, if you stand up and click your instant invisibility, most of the time you can get away from a creature undetected. Hopefully this video has given you a decent look at the Wizard, the Mage, and the Necromancer classes on the Agnarr server. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe.